Hello and welcome to What the Football. We are back again with yet another video, and Brendan Rodgers is on the verge of getting the sack. There's surely no two ways about it right now. Before we carry on, please like the video, subscribe, I really appreciate it. Leicester City have undone all their good work of Monday night by losing to Bournemouth after being in front for an hour, and all that hours hard work undone by 2 minutes of total madness. And this is Brendan Rodgers typified. A very good coach, yes, but he has lost the dressing room, hasn't he? Let's be totally honest with you, he's lost the dressing room. In many ways, the bloke is the Irish Pochettino. I know a lot of people talk about Mourinho's third year. They wax lyrical about, they talk about it regularly. It's become almost like a myth now. People talking a lot about Klopp's 7th year. Rodgers has shown signs that during his 3rd year, it starts to slowly crumble. And his 4th year, it truly crumbles. The building comes falling down. The same happened at Liverpool, and now it looks like it could be happening with Leicester City. The man who won the FA Cup and consistently got Leicester into Europe is not without criticism. He leaves behind a pretty decent legacy. But this is the same man who bottled the top 4 twice, despite being in that position for roughly about 95% of both seasons. The writing's been on the wall for weeks, and let's face it, if it wasn't for James Maddison, he'd have got the sack Monday night. He would have done. The man has literally carried Leicester City this season, and Brendan Rodgers owes him a nice little cheeky Christmas bonus if he's still in a job by Christmas, which I very much doubt. But Leicester's decline, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Aston Villa in like 2009, 2010. Obviously, it all culminated in Martin O'Neill leaving the club. But the likes of Ashley Young, Stuart Downing, John Carew, James Milner, all left in about 2 or 3 years. And it was a decline that was typified by the managerial appointments. I think they got Houllier in, they got McLeish in, they got Tim Sheridan, all becoming managers within that kind of 5-year period. And I can see the same happening with Leicester now. The likes of Ndidi, Seunchu, Tielemans are also at the club. 2 or 3 years ago, these were being tipped for big moves to some of the biggest clubs in Europe. And now Seunchu wouldn't get a game at Newcastle or Brighton. Is this Rodgers' fault? Yeah, probably is. Yes, it's down to the professionalism of players. You know, they need to give 100% every single week, but Rodgers has got a history for this. The same happened again at Liverpool. And there is no plan B. His tactics are just the same every single week. And he's relying too reliant on plan A, and that relies pretty much on how the opposition play. Leicester don't play well because they play well under Rodgers, particularly in the last few months. They play well because it relies on how the opposition are doing. Forest were awful on Monday night. Forest deserved to lose 4 or 5-0. Spurs weren't great, but they got a fired-up Heung-min Son. He plays wonderful football when it goes well. But when it doesn't go well, he's tactically very, very open. And it's like a basketball game. Again, showed this plenty of times at Liverpool. And I know Liverpool and Leicester City are 2 different levels of expectation, but Leicester City were one of those clubs 2 or 3 years ago where they probably would never have challenged for a league. But you think, you know, David Moyes at Everton, consistently challenging for Europe every single year. And it hasn't happened. Martin O'Neill at Aston Villa, I mentioned it before, like he left because the club showed a lack of ambition. And I think Leicester are showing a lack of ambition now, which I'll go into and to give an example of. The decision to sell Kasper Schmeichel and not replace him with a competent goalkeeper remains probably one of the weird and worst decisions of the season. Bearing in mind Manchester United got Martin Dubravka on. If you can't afford anybody, get somebody on loan. Someone like him would have been absolutely fine because he can't be any worse than Danny Ward. I don't know if Danny Ward was at fault for any of the goals today, but he's been at fault for about 3 or 4 goals already this season. Has he been out by the defence in front of him? No, he hasn't. But has David De Gea been held by the defence in front of him for years at Manchester United? No, he hasn't. But he's still been able to put in top-class performances. Probably not recently, but historically that's the case. So, hypothetically, obviously, he hasn't got the sack just yet, although he might by the time I edit this video and it gets put out. Who's going to replace him? Who was the right man to bring Leicester back to a more respectable position so they can build and maybe, with improved investment, culminating in the sale of players, by the way, because they need to sell players. if the reason why they haven't bought players in the summer because of a lack of money, Madison needs to be sold. Tielemans should have been sold in January. Soyuncu, Ndidi, these players need to go. They need to bring new players in. Let's not forget they pretty much built that team on the back of maybe going to places like Genk and Norwich and just buying these players out of, like, these players who are very good, but big fishes in small ponds. And that's what they need to do again. But who do they get in? I think the favourite is Thomas Frank, which I'm a bit sceptical of. I think he's a very good manager and he's a bit of not the flavour of the month because they lost to Newcastle. But he's one of those managers where he probably deserves, with the greatest respect to Brentford, a bigger club. And again, I'm not being disrespectful, but he deserves maybe that step up. But I think they need to go for somebody with a little bit more defensive nous, a bit more defensive structure. Is Rafa the man? Rafa Benitez? Probably not. We saw what he did at Everton. Someone like Marco Silva, defensively quite solid, but plays very good football. Maybe. What about Sean Dyche? Good manager, but I think he needs a club where he can overachieve with an average group of players, like a Bournemouth, for example. Maybe he might be the right man. Maybe he deserves a chance at a club who are challenging for Europa League. Maybe he deserves that jump. Maybe he needs another job to prove himself before that. Right now, Leicester fans, let me know in the comments below what you think. Who is the right man to become the next Leicester manager if Brendan Rodgers was to get the sack? Thank you very much for watching this video. Remember, please like the video once you get the chance to. Well, you're watching it, just press like. Please subscribe to the channel. More videos are coming, almost daily now. Bit weird, actually. Done probably more videos in the last 2 weeks than I've done for the previous 2 or 3 months before then. But yeah, there we go. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Take care.